you know, one of these days I am going to sit down to do one of these videos and I'm going to do it like perfectly. No mistakes or very few mistakes. Not having to start anything over, you know. Unfortunately, today is not that day. So, trying this again. Last week I was here, I came to you guys and I ranked the companions from Dragon Age Inquisition. And I did a whole bunch of categories and everything like that. And the video that I'm doing this week is actually one that I've had a number of requests for. Like, it's the stuff that people seem to be the most happy with. And it's my dark Disney stuff. And dark Disney means I go through and I look up the origin stories of some very beloved Disney characters, mostly princesses or female protagonists. And this week is no different. This week is kind of a train wreck though, because I had a little bit of trouble with some of these, and some of them were way more complicated than they need to be. But this week we are talking about Aurora, who is the princess from Sleeping Beauty, Pocahontas, and Esmerelda, who is the female protagonist from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. She is not in the princess franchise, but she is a prominent female protagonist. So we have a fairy tale, we have a historical figure, and we have a historical novel. And when I tell you it's a mess, it's a goddamn mess. So we're gonna start with Aurora. Aurora, I actually expected to be the hardest one. I don't know why, but she's actually not the hardest one. The only problem with Aurora is that there's multiple versions of the story, and there's multiple versions in basically anything, any sort of story that we consume. But there's 3 distinct versions that I'm going to be talking about for this video, and they are, I have to use my cheat sheet because I can't remember these names. They are by Giambattista Basile, Charles Perrault, and the Brothers Grimm. And if you watched my last video, you know how much I love doing a good Brothers Grimm story, because they're always so wholesome and pleasant. But anyway, so we're gonna go version by version, and there's actually a lot of crossover between the versions. Like, there's definitely some copying of homework involved. So in Basile's and I like Giambattista. I want to say Giambattista. In his version, the princess's name is Talia. I tried to find if there was some sort of cultural significance, like if the name means something or not. No, her name is just Talia. And instead of pricking her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel, she pricks it on a piece of flax. I don't know why flax. I'm not asking questions, just flax. So she gets put in her castle, her family's distraught, and she's put in her castle and she's put on a velvet throne. Again, I don't know why, velvet throne. And there's, just happens to be a king wandering around, I guess for shits and giggles, and he comes across her castle. Thanks to a falcon, like I guess he's out hunting, and his falcon is like, hey, there's a castle. So he goes to the castle. He finds Talia on her throne, rapes her in her sleep, classy guy, and then fucks off to his own kingdom and his family, because he's married. Anyway, fucks off, goes back to her, and things were normal for a little bit. The curse expires, and Talia wakes up, and she is not only awake, but she's a mom. Now you gotta remember, when she went to sleep, she was not a mom. She wasn't even pregnant. So she's been asleep at least that much longer after. Yeah. Well, he goes back. He goes back to find her, and of course she's hella confused. So he explains who he is, and he's like, "Hey, I'm your baby daddy." And they have a conversation, like, I guess a long conversation, and they bond. Which is totally creepy, but I guess 400 years ago, or whenever this was written, I guess that was sweet. I don't know. But he goes back to his kingdom after he bonds with Talia, and he's talking about Talia and his two children, the sun and the moon. I forgot their names. I probably should have looked up their names. But he keeps talking about them in his sleep, and his wife is like, bro, what the fuck? So she goes to his secretary. Is this orange enough? This is not orange enough. He goes to his secretary, and she bribes the secretary, and she's like, hey, what's going on? And the secretary explains who Talia is and who the other names are. So she is crafty, and she writes a letter to Talia, but she pretends to be the king. And she, as the king, she tells Talia that she misses the children and asks Talia to send the children to the kingdom so that he can spend time with them. So the kids show up, right? Because of course, you know, Talia doesn't know any better. And the queen, the king's wife, demands for the palace cook to cook the children so that she may feed the children to the king. She can feed him his own offspring. And the cook, of course, he's not down with this. He's not okay with this. He does not want to cook. He doesn't want to murder children, regardless of the circumstances. So he actually sends the children to his house, to his wife, and they hide the children. So what he does, obviously, is he has to cook something, or else the queen is going to know something's up. So he actually cooks 2 lambs and feeds them to the king. And every time the king talks about how good the food is, like, oh, this is delicious, the queen just like rubs it in and is hinting not so subtly that it's his kids. Well, the queen isn't satisfied with this. No. Fuck them kids. But she's mad at Talia too. So she as the king, invites Talia to the castle. Hey, come hang out at the castle. So Talia shows up, and we think everything's well and good, except no. The queen is completely lost it, and she decides that she's gonna burn Talia alive just to have her out of the way. So she makes all the arrangements and everything like that, but the king finds out of her plan. He finds out what her plan is, and he turns the whole thing on its head. And then he makes it so that the queen instead is going to be burned alive. She and anyone else who aided in betraying him. So like the secretary and, all the people along the way. And of course, once the queen is dead, because she's been burned alive, he can now legitimately marry Talia. Which he does. He marries Talia, and it's the closest thing anyone can have to happily ever after all of that. So that's that. So next up is the Perrault version. And the Perrault version, I expected for sure for there to be a lot more homework copying in this version than there actually is. And I didn't expect the copied bits to be what they were. So it starts out very similar. The christening, the family invites, they invite 7 good fairies. And the fairies all show up, of course. And they're given really, really fancy, like Buckingham Palace fancy place settings. So like gold plates and these fancy cups and everything, and just really, really done to the nines. And then this evil fairy shows up. We don't know if she's evil yet, but she's evil. And apparently everyone has thought that she's been dead. And they forgot about her. So, of course, they give her a place setting but they give her, it's nice, but it's not like good fairy nice. It's, instead of a gold plate, she gets like china, for like really fine china. So it's fancy. It's not like she's fed in a back alley somewhere. It's just not as nice as the other fairies. So the fairies start, you know, they gather around and they start giving the girl their gifts. And they give her things like beauty and song and dance and happiness and wit and attributes, all attributes. And after the 6th one gives her gift, the evil fairy is like, you know what? Fuck all y'all. And she bestows the curse that the princess on her 16th birthday will prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel. I can't tell you how many times I had to do this take so I could say that correctly. Please don't make me say it again. So she's like, hey, by the way, psych. Sucks to be you guys. But it actually sucks to be her. She didn't plan the timing right, because there's still one good fairy left who has to give her something. So the good fairy that's left can't completely undo the curse as hard as she tries. But she can, however, minimize it a little bit, kind of reduce it so it's not so bad. So instead of the girl pricking her finger on the spinning wheel and dying, she will instead go into a 100-year sleep, and then she will eventually be awoken by a king's son. I don't know why they couldn't say prince. I mean, I guess technically it's possible, like depending on birth order, I guess it's possible that he wouldn't be a prince, but it doesn't make sense for later on in the story. So we're just gonna go with prince. And you know, we all know the story. 16 years later, the princess is walking around and she finds a spinning wheel. Where it's different though, and this is actually really kind of sad, they, like in the Disney version, they destroyed all the spinning wheels. Or so they thought. They thought they destroyed them all. I don't know how that would affect their economy. I mean, maybe they're a port town, maybe they fish, and I don't know. But apparently they missed one. They missed a spinning wheel. I keep wanting to say steering wheel. So at any point in this video I say steering wheel, I mean spinning wheel. Please be with me. So, and it's not the evil fairy that leads her to this spinning wheel. She's literally just wandering, and there's this old woman that has it, like, wrong place, wrong time, and she's devastated. Girl falls asleep. And of course the family is devastated because they tried really, really hard for this not to happen, and it still happened. So the 7th fairy, which I don't know why the other fairies are not more active in this, like why is it all just this one fairy? But she decides that she doesn't want the girl to wake up and freak out. Because you gotta think about it, 100 years go by, everyone around you has grown old or died, or there's people that you don't even know yet. And she puts everyone into a similar sleep for 100 years so that everyone just kind of comes out the same way. And she uses vegetation to kind of camouflage the castle, so there's like trees and vines and stuff like that, so that no one that isn't supposed to find the castle is gonna find it. Like, so this kid shows up. I say kid, everyone's a kid to me. But this prince approaches, and all the vegetation parts and everything, and it lets him in, and he finds the princess. And instead of going the way of the last version of the story, he's so overcome by her beauty that he falls to his knees before her. And this act of love is what wakes her up. And they have a little chit chat, whatever, and they wind up getting married. But they do it by the castle chaplain, and they do it in secret. Fishy, fishy. Suspicious. So the prince goes back to the kingdom and everything's normal. And of course, you know, the circle of life, it's time for the prince to ascend the throne and become king. And his mother is still alive, so she becomes the queen mother. And he decides that it's time to bring his family so that they can all rule together and be together. And at this point, he has children with the princess. So he's a husband and father, and he brings his family back. And his mother does not like this. She does not like this. She apparently has ogre lineage, and she freaks out when she finds out about all this. She decides that she's gonna send the whole family into the woods, like one by one, because she's gonna have them cooked. And this is the part that I was like, really? This is the part of the homework that you copied? But she decides, well, she and the cook decide that this is what's going to happen. However, just like in the last version of the story, the cook is not really interested in doing all of this for her. So each time, so the queen mother wants the boy cooked first, and the cook replaces it with a lamb, and then she wants the girl cooked, and then she wants the princess cooked, the queen cooked. And she's very proud of herself for this. She gets it done, she gets it taken care of, she thinks. But as long as there's a loose end, she can still potentially get in trouble. So she decides that she is going to kill the cook in a pit of vipers. Very dramatic, but she decides she's going to kill the cook in a pit of vipers. So she's got the pit all set up and she's ready to do this. But the king swoops in last minute, finds out what's going on, and stops it. And she is distraught by being found out, and she throws herself into the pit of vipers and commits suicide. Very bright, happy story if I've ever seen one. So, I was doing the research for this, and this obviously is the part where I get to the third version of the story, which is, I put way too much foundation on this brush. Oof. But the last version of the story is the Brothers Grimm version, which really threw me for a loop because the Brothers Grimm version is probably technically the closest to the animated version. And it kind of splits the story into two stories. So we have the bit about the christening and the sleeping and everything, and then, the prince finds her and wakes her up, and it's all this great happiness, whatever. And that's where they cut the story in half. So they have, the Sleeping Beauty version of it, and they do have the, the weird mother-in-law, the weird mother figure, having, trying to get the kids cooked or whatever in that. So that's actually two different stories with them. So it's kind of cut and dry. Really, the only notable feature of that story is that they do call her Briar Rose, which if you've seen Sleeping Beauty, you know that is the name that's given to Aurora while she's in hiding in the woods with the fairies. They refer to her as Briar Rose so that the apparently very not bright residents of this kingdom will not know that it's Aurora because she's been called by a different name. So, that's it. That's the Disney version. Didn't take a whole lot of details. Like I said, it is probably the closest to the Brothers Grimm version. I love the addition of making Maleficent a dragon. I love her as the evil fairy, and I love this being this dragon, this unstoppable force that Philip takes, fights and kills, and he saves the day. And it was done in 1960. Like, a good hero story was not really such a bad thing, I don't think. I don't know. What do you guys think? Don't mind me. I'm desperately trying to fix my eyebrows. God, I'm terrible at eyebrows. I know I say that every video, but I'm terrible at eyebrows. So let me just load on tons of concealer here, and maybe it'll look good enough on camera. It won't, but maybe. Anyway, so this next part of this video is about one of Disney's most controversial movies. And it's controversial for a number of reasons, which I'm sure you can figure out. But the movie and the character I'm talking about is Pocahontas. So for those of you who didn't watch the movie, or maybe you only watched it once, or you refused to watch it, whatever reason, a quick summary, and really it's a simple plot. It's not even like a more complicated, well thought out plot, but basically in the Disney version, Pocahontas is a young woman who is the daughter of a chief, Chief Powhatan. And he wants her to get married. She doesn't want to get married because she's a strong, independent woman who don't need a man. And she accidentally meets John Smith, an English colonist, and they wind up becoming friends, and she teaches him to appreciate nature, and he winds up taking the fall for the death of one of her tribesmen that one of his colony friends actually killed him. So he's taken and he's going to be executed, and she puts herself between her father's club and his body so that he won't be executed, and everyone makes friends, and it's this beautiful lesson. And he's wounded, of course, so he winds up having to go back to England, and they're all friends, and they all just dip out. It's the Disney version of this. Oh my god, my eyebrows. So we're gonna rewind a little bit. We're gonna rewind a lot, because we're gonna rewind a lot here, sweet cheeks. So there are, and please, if you know more about this than me, please help me out. I only know what I found on a number of websites and pieced together. And through Pocahontas' history, I found a lot of different names. Some of it claims superstition, and some of it just claims like legality or whatever. But Pocahontas was a real person, and the name I found for her is Matoaka. Matoaka, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I am going to refer to her as Pocahontas primarily through this part of the video, because it was her name at one point in real life, and it is in reference to the name that she has in the movie, and it's the name of the movie. So we're just going to stick with Pocahontas. But this little girl named Matoaka was born in the late 1500s. There's a little bit of debate. I'm going to say that line so many times in this part of the video, I'm so sorry. There's a little bit of debate as to when she was actually born. And most historians put her birth at around 1595 or 1596. This is corroborated by some journal entries and writings from other people who were involved in this situation. And like I said, there's a lot of debate around her name. I've seen a number of different names for her, but it's generally believed, when I say generally believed, I mean there's a couple of historians, both from the tribes and European scholars, who believe that she was named after her mother, who was a lower, I don't want to say lower class, because it's not really a class system, but she was a lower rank, I guess, than Powhatan. I don't know. And they're not sure when she died. They think that Pocahontas' mother died either when Pocahontas was very young, or that she died in childbirth. Both very, very realistic possibilities. This poor eyebrow. Oh my god, I hate this eyebrow. So, if you've seen the animated movie, you know, that's not what I was supposed to do. You know that there's a song in the beginning of it, and they talk about the year 1607. 1607 is indeed when John Smith and other employees of the Virginia Company of London sailed over to the Americas to do their white European thing and take over everything and try to convert everyone, and you know, they tried to white people that shit. So and this was really, like, I had to do some digging, because there was there's like 3 different versions of everything that happened in this story. And when I say story, I mean the historical bit, not the movie. So again, if you are like a history buff and you know better than me, please help me out. But according to most of what I've seen, a relative of Pocahontas' father actually captured John Smith. But when he captured him, it wasn't hostile. Like, there was a feast and everything like that. And I guess they had a translator. And they started some negotiating as far as what the colonists could and couldn't do on the land. If they were, there was talks about, like, well, maybe they could get some land or whatever. And John Smith wrote about all of these different meetings, and in the first writing of his, he doesn't say anything about knowing Pocahontas. So it's believed that he did not actually meet her at this initial meeting. I don't know why he wouldn't have met her, but it's generally believed that he met her months later, like probably like 6 months later, if not more. But, and I really have to use my cheat sheet here because there's numbers and years and names and everything. So in 1616, he wrote to Queen Anne of Denmark, who wound up marrying King James. But he wrote to her telling her about a little girl who saved him from certain death at great risk to her personal safety. And the scene that is described in this writing is remarkably close to the one that's in the Disney movie, where her father had a club out and she threw herself between them at the risk of accidentally being hit with the club. As with everything else in this fucking video, there's debate as to how much of that was accurate and how much of that might have been John Smith grandstanding, like trying to make himself look good. He wasn't an unpopular guy, but he at one point did not have a great standing with the Virginia Company, and it's believed that he wanted to make himself look good to the various royals in Europe, since they're all fucking related, and to his former employer. So 2 years after Smith was initially captured, so the first time he was captured, Pocahontas, according to his record, did actually visit the English colony and did sometimes bring food, did, try to show them how to grow the food. This is, again, take all of this with a grain of salt because of who was involved and what was involved. So she would visit the tribe and she would play with the boys in the tribe. And part of the controversy with her name is that it was possible that they told the English that her name was Pocahontas so that the English wouldn't know her real name, the Mata'aka. But I can't find proof of if that's 100% accurate or not. But she would play with the boys and she would bring food, and sometimes she would bring other tribes people and they would bring food. But as was known to do, more and more conflict was rising between the tribe and the Europeans. So during the increasing conflict, there was a gunpowder explosion at the settlement, and John Smith did actually wind up wounded, and they shipped him back to England when this happened. And this was around 1609. So the other white colonists told Powhatan, who was Pocahontas' father, told the entire tribe that Smith had died in the explosion. So here we go, lying for their own personal benefit. And this is, as if things weren't complicated and fuzzy enough, this is where they get even fuzzier. And again, I had to go to a number of different sources and try to piece this together. But Pocahontas was kidnapped. She was taken captive during what became known as the Anglo-Powhatan War, which is exactly what it sounds like. The English and the Powhatan people were officially at war. And there was a neighboring tribe that was kind of like on again, off again with the Powhatans. So sometimes they were loyal to Powhatan and sometimes they were not. And they had a white translator that lived with them. And there was a captain named Samuel Argall. And this translator helped Captain Argall trick the tribe into thinking that they would have an alliance with the English against the Powhatan tribe if they helped with this plan. So they helped kidnap her. And by kidnap, I mean they tricked her into getting on the ship, and then they held her captive when she was on the ship. And they said that they would let her go if Powhatan returned some captives that he had taken and some weapons and tools that had been taken. And honestly, Powhatan let the captives go and returned weapons and tools, but the colonists, and Argyle and the colonists all felt that not enough had been returned to them as far as guns and stuff like that, and weapons and tools, and they kept her anyway because they felt he didn't live up to his end of the deal. Now this is another one of those places where the story kind of forks into two things depending on who's telling the story. So European historians mostly say that Pocahontas was not raped during her captivity because it would have hurt the English interests if they did that. Well, there are several records to the contrary that say that she was indeed actually raped multiple times when she was on board the ship, and by multiple different people. No offense to anyone on the first record, I really, just knowing how the European colonialism was, I'm definitely inclined to believe the second version of that story. I hope this is going where I think it's going to. Anyway, so there is apparently a blip in a statement that was written in 1616. And this blip references the fact that Pocahontas may have been married to a Potawatomi man named Kocoum. Which, if you've seen the movie, you know that Kocoum is the man that Powhatan wants her to marry. So this is actually a name that they got from somewhere. I'm not 100%, like some people say she wasn't married, but the Potawatomi tribe says that she indeed was married to a Potawatomi man named Kocoum, and not only was she married to him, but they had a daughter named Kaoki. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. But the tribe says that when, after all of this went down, like with her being taken captive, Kocoum was killed. Because of course, this is what the colonizers do. They believe that the daughter was raised in secret by the rest of the tribe so that the daughter would not face any harm for being related to the two of them. And like I said, this is in a statement, a blip in a statement written in 1616. So this is all, you can kind of see this time is kind of, and while she was held captive, obviously, Kocoum was killed, assuming that he did indeed exist. And I'm sure they absolutely told her that he was dead. And while she was held captive, she met a man named, what is his first name? He met a man named John Rolfe. And John Rolfe had been married and had children, but his family died in a shipwreck near Bermuda. And he wanted to remarry. And he was absolutely gaga over Pocahontas. He thought she was beautiful and smart and everything. And he wanted to remarry, but he was conflicted because she was a heathen. I absolutely do not, I hate that word, but for the sake of the story, he absolutely believed that he thought that she was a heathen, and he wanted to find a way to marry her, and it came in the form of the fact that she had been kind of forced to convert to Christianity. I mean, I don't want to say forced, but she had been forcefully encouraged to convert to Christianity which was, in all honesty, actually one of the goals of the Virginia Company of London, was to convert the local savages to Christianity and, you know, save their souls or whatever the fuck. And again, while all of this is happening, because she had accepted Christianity, she was given a Christian name. She became known as Rebecca. And Rebecca and John Rolfe were married April 5th of 1614. So this blip about her possibly being married came 2 years after she remarried and married John Rolfe. They had a son named Thomas, which I'm sure made John very happy that I'm sure he felt that God somehow, for him. And the Virginia Company saw this as a valuable opportunity. And when I say a valuable opportunity, I mean they saw this woman who was beautiful and smart or whatever, and had been converted successfully. She had been saved, she'd found God, and they decided to basically use her as some sort of good propaganda. And so they shipped her off to England and proceeded to parade her around. They presented her, because of the way English society was built, they presented her as a princess, because she was the daughter of the guy in charge. But as we know, princess is not a title that actually existed among her people. But she was the strong princess who married a good Christian man. God, this whole story just makes me want to gag. And so she was presented at kind of like a show horse. She was presented at these grand banquets and stuff and everything, and everyone. She was the talk of the social circles. And there's so much artwork that I found while I was researching all this, of paintings of her at court and here and at banquets, and she was given well-placed seats and everything. And of course, the accuracy of all of this is, you guessed it, greatly debated. So I think it's somewhere in the middle, personally. I think that there probably was a bit of showmanship, because if you're trying to show that you're successfully converting people, you want, to show everyone like, oh, there's this person of great rank and we've shown them that God is... It frustrates me. I'm atheist, so it frustrates me. Oh, this frustrates me greatly. So this is all, this all happens, and the plan is to return to Virginia and go back to the colony and do colony shit. And they're on the ship, and they don't even get to the ocean. They're still on the river. And she falls suddenly and mysteriously very ill, like greatly ill. So ill, in fact, that she is taken off of the ship and onto like I guess it was kind of a beach. Like it was the side of the river, but it was closer to a beach than like a riverbed. And she's taken off the ship and she dies right there. Just dies right there on the sand. And no one is 100% sure how she died. There's a lot of theories. A lot of the theories are things like pneumonia, smallpox, tuberculosis. I've seen people say that it was just the flu, just the common flu. There's a very, very small percentage of historians who believe that she was actually poisoned. I mean, I'm no great political schemer, but I don't really see what the benefit of poisoning her would be. Like, I guess unless she poisoned herself, but I don't know. This is, again, all speculation. The theory that I've seen that pop up the most in all of the sources that I looked at say that pneumonia was probably the likely cause. Because at this point, they kind of knew about smallpox a little bit. They had seen smallpox. They knew about tuberculosis, because tuberculosis, you cough up blood. But pneumonia would hit you fast, especially if you go from what is now Virginia to England, where it's very damp. I mean, I'm no scientist, I'm no historian, but I definitely would believe pneumonia before any of the other ones. I need to not swing this around. And there's so much more that goes into this poor girl than I found, like, on a couple of web pages. And I feel like I would love to be able to do better by her than this little blip in this video, but I want people to know just how fucked up the Disney version of, because they could have gone and they showed us, Disney has showed us that they are willing to go dark, as we'll see in the next part of this. Like, there's some pretty dark stuff that happens in Disney movies. Now, I don't know why they had to sugarcoat this one of all of them. They did get a couple of, I don't want to say brownie points, but they did cast Indigenous voice actors for a good portion of the Indigenous characters. So I know there was kind of a lot of debate as to how much good versus bad they did. I mean, honestly, when I was a girl, I loved Pocahontas. Oh my god. I had all the dolls, I had the toys, I had everything. I loved her so much. And as I became an adult and found out what actually happened to her, that was harsh. Yeah, that was, I'm not saying, do the full nitty-gritty version of it, but Disney could have done better by her. I wish they would have done better by her, but it is what it is. So it is believed that at the time of her death, she was 21 years old. So, if there was ever part of any of my videos that could be formally classified as a shit show, it's this part of the video. So, I rewatched The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Disney version, last night after I finished writing this. I just felt like I was missing something. Like, I couldn't figure out what it was. Something just was not connecting for me. And I realized that what's not connecting is that there's so much similar between the book and the movie, and there's so much that's different. So, I'm leaving a lot of the story out because I am trying to focus on Esmerelda's piece in all of this. A lot of the characters are the same, like I said. So, like, Frollo is back. He's the same douche nozzle as before. So, if you want to picture his face from the movie during all of this, valid. Quasimodo obviously is still back. He's the same thing. He's 20 years old, malformed, half blind. And this was, I don't know why I never thought of this, but in the book he's half deaf. When you think about it, he's spent 20 years surrounded by these giant bells. Of course he's going to be half deaf. This was a valuable opportunity that they could use for, but I guess representation wasn't really something they cared about in 96. I think this was 96. I think this was 96 and Hercules was 97. But anyway, so he's back. Esmeralda's back. Esmeralda is 16 in the book. She was born Agnes, and she was kidnapped by the Roma as a baby, and Quasimodo was left in her place. I guess that's what I was gathering from all this. Phoebus is there. Phoebus is a babe still, but he works for the king. He's the head of the king's men, so he's technically an antagonist for this ride. And there's a guy who's a major character that I don't know if maybe there's a reference to him in the Disney movie and he's just not a character, but his name is Pierre Gringoire, and he's a struggling poet. He seems like a mostly chill guy. for most of this. And it's the same kind of premise. It's 1482. It's Paris. You know, Quasimodo lives up with the bells. He rings the bells. It's like Frollo versus the Roma, like constantly, because Frollo's gonna Frollo. And Esmeralda is still doing her street dancing thing. And she does actually have a pet goat named Charlie in the book. So there's kind of an annoying amount of stuff that they actually kept over for all of this. And it was probably a little bit of detail I at least expected. Anyway, so Frollo wants Esmeralda bad. Just like in the movie, he wants her bad. And he's going through what we see with the Hellfire number. Is really, that's taken right out of the book. He wants her. He knows he can't have her. But he wants her anyway, despite the fact that he can't have her. And he has kind of that same thing too, where it's like it's me or the fire, kind of. But it's not 100% the same because the premise of her being in danger is different. And the Festival of Fools is actually a thing that happens. Now, this was a small detail that kind of spun me. In the song, the Festival of Fools song in the movie, Clopin, who's also in the book, talks about the 6th of February being the Festival of Fools. Well, close. It's actually the 6th of January in the book. I don't know why. I don't know why that's a difference. But it's there, it's a thing. And it goes about as well in the book as it does in the movie. It goes about as well. And so, just so it all gets done at festivals, and he's captured, including by Phoebus, and he's left out to be publicly humiliated, kind of the same way as in the movie. And I don't know exactly what the circumstances are, but he gets like super, like, Esmeralda brings him water and saves his life. Like, I don't know what, yeah, I mean, he's in that bad a shape. She brings him water and saves his life. And so, of course, he, from that moment on, is obsessed with her. And he's recruited to kidnap her and bring her to the cathedral. And it doesn't quite, it goes awry. It 100% goes awry. There's too many people involved, and he misunderstands. And this guy, Gringoire, that I mentioned, tries to save Esmeralda from the plot, but he gets knocked out by Quasimodo. And the Roma find Pierre Gringoire, and they think that he's involved, and so he's about to be executed, and Esmeralda intervenes and says that she will marry him for 4 years, and she saves his life. So great, now she's married to this guy. She's not remotely interested in him. She won't let him touch her. She wants Phoebus, who is already married. Long story. It really is actually a long story. And she won't let him touch her, and she won't let him touch her. But he grows fond of her goat. He grows fond of Jolly. And they're friends, and he sees Jolly as like his pet too. And a lot of shit happens. A lot of shit happens. And the part out of all of the shit that happens that is incredibly important is the fact of how much the difference between the book and the movie, the primary difference is the lack of communication and a whole bunch of mistaken identity. It's really sad. Like, if things happened a different way, they would happen like they did in the book. Or it would happen in the book the way they happen in the movie. So, Esmeralda is accused of stabbing Phoebus and almost killing him. And the problem with that is it's actually Frollo who does it. He does it as in a fit of jealousy, because he sees that Esmeralda loves Phoebus and he wants her attention, so he stabs Phoebus, and she is framed for it. She's captured, she is tortured, she falsely confesses, and she is sentenced to be hanged for murder. But, 1400s justice. She's sentenced to be hanged for murder. And so they go to hang her, and like in the movie, Quasimodo swings down and he saves her, and he brings her into the cathedral and claims sanctuary. Claims that she has sanctuary, so she's safe, because the church is safe. You cannot, in those days, you can't arrest somebody who's in a church, because God or something, I don't know. And so she's safe, right? Like, just like in the movie, like, yeah, it sucks that she's stuck in these four walls, but she's safe. Except that in the book, because Phoebus is one of the king's men, Parliament gets involved, and Parliament says that she can't have sanctuary in the cathedral anymore. And Frollo tells Gringoire this. Gringoire tells Clopin. Clopin is he's back. Clopin rounds up the Roma and goes to march on the cathedral to save her. Well, Quasimodo misunderstands who they are. He chases them off. The king's men show up. He leads Frollo and Phoebus to Esmeralda. They take her, they arrest her, and this is where it gets so sad. And so she's gonna be executed. Straight up, she's just gonna be executed now. She's in their captivity. She can't get out of this one. There's just no way she can get out of it. So it's the day that she's gonna be executed, and Gringoire is there, and he springs into action. He has a moment of bravery, and he springs into action and saves Jolly, because Jolly is about to be killed because they think he's the devil in disguise. Saves the goat, lets them hang his wife, so she dies. Yep, Esmeralda dies. So, if there is any small bright side to all of this, Frollo watches all of this happen because he's a salty buttfuck, and he's laughing at the fact that he sees this as a win, because Esmeralda rejected him. He could have saved her, but she rejected him, and now she's dead. And Quasimodo gets mad when he sees him laughing, and he yeets Frollo off of the cathedral, and he's never seen again. Just chucks him off, and he has a guilty conscience. I'm really skipping a lot. There's so many characters. I'm gonna link the Wikipedia for this story in the comments, so you can see how much I'm cutting out of this. And so Quasimodo finds out that Esmeralda's body has been thrown in a sort of catacombs. It's not really a catacombs because it's for poor people and criminals. But he finds her corpse, which has already started to. She's dead. She's already stinky. And he finds her corpse, and he wraps his arms around her, and he literally lets himself die. He starves, dehydration, dies with her in his arms, and they rot together. And they find his body later. They find their bodies later, and they try to separate them, and Quasimodo's bones turn to dust. Man, so what happened with this when I was a kid, because I have to put a personal story in this. I saw the movie. I was obsessed with Esmeralda. I was obsessed with her, absolutely. I wanted the doll. I don't know why my mom wouldn't let me have the dolls, but I wanted the dolls. I wanted everything. I had like silly like little kid jewelry that had Esmeralda's face all over it. And I was kind of an advanced reader, so I saw my parents had this set of like 20 books, and it was each book had 4 or 5 like important novels. And I saw in that series they had both The Little Mermaid and they had The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And of course I was obsessed with The Hunchback of Notre Dame, so I open it and I'm trying to find where it starts, and I accidentally opened it to one of the last pages, and so I read the part about like the bodies together, and I was like, I was mortified because that movie is pretty dark. That movie is really, really dark. And I didn't know it could get worse, and then it got worse. So, yeah, this episode was really just like, honestly, I say if you want to know more about The Hunchback of Notre Dame, just read it. I know I need to read it if I want to know more about it. I was not prepared for how convoluted it is if you're not like privy to how it goes in the book, kind of sort of thing. So, and there's so many characters. Oh my god, I left out every single minor character. Like, they listed major characters and minor characters, and I just ignored the minor characters because there's just too many. Like, Esmeralda's mom is in it because Esmeralda's mom is still alive, but she's an anchoress, which apparently is some like not really like a monk, but somebody who imposes solitude on themselves for religious reasons, and then she finds out her daughter's alive, but she finds out her daughter's alive like seconds before she's murdered. So yeah, so Disney kept a lot of that. I need a nap and I still have work to do. Let me know in the comments who you want me to do next. If you have something that you want me to do, message me. This was all very depressing.